Good morning, everybody. You're now listening to the Vault Excel. This is live number two. Let's start off with CBS New York 2 news pertaining to Bishop Lamor Whitehead.
Pastor has been sentenced to 9 years in prison for fraud. You may remember 2 years ago, Bishop Lamor Whitehead was robbed at gunpoint during Sunday service. He was convicted in March for wire fraud, extortion, and making false statements to federal law enforcement agents. Prosecutors say Bishop Whitehead stole thousands of dollars from his parishioners to buy luxury goods and sought to defraud and extort a businessman and commit loan fraud.
A lot of crimes there pertaining to Mr. Lamor. So, what is going to happen now to his cushy life that he attained by fraudulently taking money from people, swindling money out of people, allegedly $90,000 or so from a single mother? How she had that type of money, I do not know. But it's absolutely baffling and disturbing. Uh, let's see if we can get a little more information pertaining to Mr. Whitehead, his previous charges. Thank you all so much for joining me. This is live number two. Thank you. Bringing you back-to-back content today. Lamor Whitehead, a flamboyant pastor who made headlines in 2022 when he was robbed during a live stream church service in Brooklyn and then became the target of criminal charges himself, has been sentenced to 9 years in federal prison. U.S. District Judge Lorna G. Schofield imposed the punishment on Monday after Whitehead was found guilty of numerous fraud and attempted extortion charges, along with lying to the FBI. Prosecutors portrayed the 45-year-old church leader as a grifter, siphoning money from his followers and demanding money for what he claimed was influence over New York Mayor Eric Adams. Lamor Whitehead is a con man who stole millions of dollars in a string of financial frauds and even stole from his own parishioners, U.S. Attorney Damon Williams said. The pastor's attorney, Don Florio, said in a statement to NPR that while we are deeply saddened by the outcome, Whitehead maintains his innocence. We will explore all available legal avenues to ensure that justice is served, Florio said, adding, we will immediately begin the appeal process. Whitehead was found guilty of bilking a single mom. A jury found Whitehead guilty in March of all 5 criminal counts against him. During the 2-week trial, prosecutors described how in one money-making scheme, Whitehead extracted $90,000 from a nurse, a single mom in her 50s, who attended his church with the promise that the money would serve as both an investment and to provide her with a home. Both the pastor spent the money on himself, according to court records. I lost everything I had worked for, the church member Pauline Anderson said in a victim impact statement. She has had to pay more than $40,000 in legal bills as she fought Whitehead in civil court, Anderson said. Taxes and fees have also racked up, and she took early withdrawals from her retirement fund. The anguish associated with having to repay taxes on funds the accused personally spent while I was left with nothing is indescribable, Anderson said. In contrast, Whitehead was living in a 6-bedroom house in Paramus, New Jersey. At a recent foreclosure sale, the property attracted a top bid of more than $1.9 million. According to court filings, the pastor's assets also included a 2-building apartment complex in Hartford, Connecticut. Whitehead had been scheduled to be sentenced in early July, but on May 20th, the judge revoked his bail and moved the hearing to this week, after a letter to the court said the pastor was appearing on social media making false accusations against the prosecutors, the Anderson family, and the FBI, claiming that his conviction was a setup, according to court documents. Whitehead became the subject of intense scrutiny in 2022 when he was involved in 3 high-profile incidents. In May of that year, the pastor mediated a man's surrender in NYC subway shooting of Goldman Sachs employee Daniel Enriquez. Whitehead turned heads with his ostentatious appearance, wearing a Fendi jacket and stepping out of a Rolls Royce at a legal aid office, and with his claims of friendship with New York Mayor Eric Adams. 2 months later, 3 gunmen entered Whitehead's Leaders of Tomorrow International Ministries church in the Canarsie neighborhood of Brooklyn and removed more than $1 million worth of jewelry from him and his wife. the New York Police Department told NPR. The robbery took place as Whitehead was live streaming a service, and he posted videos online describing what happened. But in late 2022, prosecutors filed federal charges against Whitehead, accusing him of fraud and saying he attempted to extort a Bronx business owner into giving him large amounts of money in exchange for the pastor using his alleged influence in City Hall under Mayor Adams. And when FBI agents spoke to Whitehead, the indictment said he lied when he claimed to have only one cell phone. His church's website described Whitehead as being active in business as well as in the ministry, owning mortgage and real estate companies. But prosecutors say Whitehead illegally sought to leverage his real estate holdings, filing fraudulent loan applications with 5 banks seeking millions of dollars. He then failed to make payments on the loans he tricked banks into issuing, they said. In addition to the prison term, Whitehead was ordered to pay $85,000 in restitution and forfeit $95,000. NPR.org is the source. So what I have to say is what I've said before when I brought you this content 2 years ago. A pastor who I believe already had a criminal record comes out to pretend to be a pastor, but basically just a fraud, a grifter. You people out here have to know better and who you're giving your money to. That's anybody. I don't care who they are. Pastor, no pastor. Gucci suits, Gucci slippers. It's all the same. You don't know people. And there's no way I'm getting ready to give you $90,000 for anything. I'm not getting ready to give you $10,000. I'm not getting ready to give you $20,000. It's my money. I want to keep it. You want to donate to the church? Fine. You want to tithe your 10%? Fine. That's between you and God. But you didn't owe this pastor anything. And you surely didn't owe him $90,000. And to me, this scheme sounds just like the Chrisleys. They did the same thing, taking out loans from the bank, purporting certain income that they didn't have, and the banks foolishly gave them the money, and then they took the money and spent it on themselves. That's the same thing this man did here. Went and got loans and defrauding people for probably, donations and different things, and he took the money and spent it on himself. Anybody with sense should know a pastor looks foolish walking around in Gucci outfits and Gucci shoes and jackets. Is this who you want representing you? And there's nothing wrong with liking and acquiring nice things, but it doesn't make any sense to have a storefront in Brooklyn and you're walking around driving expensive cars and expensive jewelry and name brand clothes with the emblems on it, and you can't even afford a decent building to hold your church in. So the parishioner should have known better then. Well, why don't we have a better building, a better place to worship? He probably wasn't paying a lot of rent on the building, probably didn't own the building, and you're sitting here giving up your hard-earned money to this man who's just living off that little money that you all were giving, plus his schemes and his scams. Hopefully this lady will get her $90,000 back from Mr. Whitehead and his wife. From my understanding, he does have a family. How does the wife feel? Because now you're going to be left alone raising your child while your husband is doing 9 years. Be 50 plus when he gets out, penitentiary. If he lives, come out. Don't get his tail beat up in there. Instead of him coming out doing something good with himself, trying to change, do right, instead he found a way to grift people, grift banks. And the wife, she had to have known, because common sense will tell you, you know the aptitude of the person that you're with. And when you start making a high income, you have to know that something's not right and that the money's coming from something fraudulent. I did not hear that she was arrested or indicted, but she had to have known he was scheming people to get money. And what legacy has he left for his child? None. It's just a shame. But as I said, who you decide to give your money to is your choice, your business. But you need to know who you're dealing with, number one. Two, you need to know who the hell you're giving your money to. And there's just no way I would give a pastor $90,000. There is no way I would even let him know I had access to that kind of money. So now you have to ask that. Where did she get the money from to give it to him? Then she's digging in her retirement fund to try to pay legal bills. So this is BS. What she needs to do is sue him for all monies and hardship in trying to get the money back. So I sued him for the $90,000. I would sue him for every dollar I spent on a lawyer, and every day I went without sleep. I want restitution, and she needs to file paperwork ASAP, because naturally they'll probably seize their properties since they have been dealing with fraud. He and the spouse, she's along for the ride as well, and she'll probably get that money back. And I don't see how a house could be sold when he should be probably getting sued by banks and other people. Let me read that again about this home. Let's see. It says, yeah, at a recent foreclosure sale, the property attracted a top bid of more than $1.9 million. 6-bedroom house in Paramus, New Jersey. Then he owns a two-building apartment complex in Hartford. So I don't understand how anybody can put a bid on a house, because if he's been indicted by the government and he also got a guilty verdict, plus the guilty verdict of scheming that lady out of $90,000, the banks plus this lady should be able to sue him, and any other entities should be able to sue his estate to recoup the money that they lost. So I don't see how somebody could be buying his home, how there could be a bid on his home, because that's a part of his estate. So I don't know how that's legal. Next story, Keith Papini. He was married to Sherry Papini. They're no longer married. Today, Hulu will have a documentary pertaining to the life of Sherry Papini and the hoax that she exacted, pretending to be kidnapped by 2 Hispanic women in California. He has decided to tell his story to ABC News. And what I find baffling about his commentary is that he says that when he saw her after she claimed that she was kidnapped, that he knew that she was lying. Very baffling information. Also, Justin Timberlake was recently arrested on DUI charges in the Hamptons, coming out of a hotel, allegedly drunk, failed a sobriety test, was let go. He also is traveling on tour. And also, this month, he will have a court appearance pertaining to that DUI charge. There's video showing his car, BMW, driving down the street. And allegedly, he ran a stop sign and was swerving. That's why he was pulled over. It basically sounds like his lawyer's acting like he wasn't drinking. But allegedly, the officer is saying his eyes were bloodshot or glassy looking, and he smelled of alcohol. You're entitled to your opinion of the said information. ABC News is the source. Good morning, Pale Rider. Thank you for joining me.
Interview with Keith Papini, the ex-husband of Sherry Papini, the California mom who faked her own abduction and lied about it for 6 years. He's speaking out for the first time since her arrest. Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman sat down with him. Good morning again, Matt.
Hey, good morning, Michael. When I first interviewed Keith nearly 8 years ago, he was a man who was shattered by her disappearance. Now he's a man who had been shattered by that hoax. And I asked him why he did this docuseries. He told me to try to get the truth out, to tell people he had no idea about her plan, and that the biggest victims of that hoax was her own family.
Heyo. She made us all believe that her story was true. Every single day she committed to the lie.
He was the husband at the center of a kidnapping hoax that captivated the country.
The search for a missing mom in California. Sherry Papini vanished Wednesday while jogging near her home.
Now, Keith Papini, after 7 years of silence, is sitting down with GMA, revealing new details about how his wife Sherry faked her own disappearance, lied to authorities, and claimed that she'd been kidnapped by 2 Hispanic women. The hoax didn't just last the 22 days that she had disappeared. It lasted for years, 6 years.
And every single day. And that's what people don't realize. It was every single day.
In the new Hulu documentary series, Perfect Wife, Keith recounts the years-long saga. What made you want to sit down and revisit all of that?
I wanted to get the truth out there and really wanted to let everybody know like how convincing Sherry was all those years and how I believed everything that she was telling me.
In 2016, the California mother of 2 vanishing after going for a jog. The frantic 22-day search for Sherry began with Keith's 911 call.
I'm totally freaking out, thinking somebody just grabbed her.
As the husband, Keith was the first person police questioned in her disappearance, but he passed a polygraph test. You said that you were living this perfect life.
there were cracks. She was telling other people that you were abusive. She told friends that you'd kill her if she ever left you. Are those allegations true?
Oh, of course not. Those allegations hurt. They're painful.
Did you ever physically or mentally abuse her?
Never.
Keith helping lead the search, but without any luck. Then, on Thanksgiving Day, Sherry turned up on the side of a highway.
Are you chained up? Yes. Okay.
Shackled, bruised, and branded. And when we interviewed Keith right after it happened in 2016, he broke down.
She literally lived through hell.
But now he says even then, there was doubt.
When you first encountered her in the hospital, what was your first instinct?
When I pulled back the curtain and I saw her and I saw the look in her eyes, I felt in that moment that she was lying. And it wasn't until when I really got close and I could just see the amount of injuries, bruises, burns to her body. And it was a shock to me. And I remember thinking how horrible of me to even think that she could have done this to herself.
For years, authorities searched for her supposed Hispanic captors.
The amount of fear that our family lived in that was fake is excruciating. I mean, the security at our house, new doors, new locks, new lights, new cameras.
Then, in August of 2020, trace DNA found on Sherry led authorities to her former boyfriend, James Reyes, who they say helped Sherry carry out her plan. He passed a polygraph and has never been charged with a crime. Investigators confronting Sherry about her hoax. Keith, right there.
I don't know. No, there's no way it's changed. There's no way. There's no way.
DNA doesn't lie.
But it wasn't until 19 months later, in March of 2022, that Sherry was finally arrested, later convicted of lying to a federal officer and serving 10 months in prison.
She apologized in court. But has Sherry ever apologized to you or the children?
No, never. She has no remorse that I have ever witnessed or seen.
Do you still talk to her?
I do not talk to Sherry at all. It's very difficult for me.
Why do you think that she essentially concocted this hoax, disappeared, beat herself to a pulp for 22 days, and then continued to lie about it for years?
I think she wanted me to be her knight in shining armor and run to her. And I think that she wanted to plan a fake kidnapping. But in her version, I was supposed to find her.
And Keith says the ordeal still haunts him.
Do you think you'll ever be able to get out from under the shadow of the Sherry Papini hoax?
I think it's always going to be there. We do want to move past it. I do want to provide my children, an amazing childhood. But I think it'll always be there.
We reached out to Sherry and her ex-boyfriend, James Reyes, for comment. Neither of them responded. We understand that Sherry does have a new boyfriend now, and Keith says that she told their kids that she's now authoring 2 children's books. And when asked Keith, is he happier now, he says no, but he is healing, and he's trying to offer his kids.
Say that again.
There.
What?
We reached out to Sherry and her ex-boyfriend, James Reyes, for comment. Neither of them responded. We understand that Sherry does have a new boyfriend now, and Keith says that she told their kids that she's now authoring 2 children's books. And when asked Keith, is he happier now, he says no, but he is healing, and he's trying to offer his kids the best childhood he can. Guys.
All right, Matt. The whole thing is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
Still so many questions, too, about the case.
Perfect Wife, the mysterious disappearance of Sheriff Papini, is streamed Thursday on Hulu.
All right. That's today, the 20th. If you're interested and you have the Hulu app, feel free to watch that documentary. He tells us, Mr. Keith, that when he first went in to see the wife at the hospital, Sherry, he thought she was lying. So what expression did she have on her face to make him think that she was lying? But then he says he pulls back the covers to see the wounds. He felt bad for thinking that she lied. What I have to ask myself is, was she a liar in their marriage, in their relationship? How long did they date? How long did they court? Because a person does not wake up at a certain age and make up such a devious tale, a devious faux crime. This type of crime is just a jump off of something that was already brewing inside of the person, which we saw that with Carly Russell. She's a younger version of Papini, but that's my point. It's that these people have been lying. They've probably lied for a very long time. There are people who know that they're liars, but just push the little lies under the rug until something big happens, such as a fake crime of saying I was kidnapped. The sad part is that this went on for years before she was brought to justice. She only did 10 years in prison, which is nothing, a slap on the wrist. And we're seeing that now with these faux crimes. They're not getting a lot of time in jail, a year. What's a year in jail for wasting resources? So you wasted resources, 6 years of investigation. She got money from the state of California through a victims fund. There was a little hoopla about that. People were complaining about the husband getting the money and paying off bills, this and that. You wouldn't have known what he spent anyway unless he told it. That's the whole point. Once people get any type of money, they do what they want with the money. So at first I thought, well, that probably was a good idea. But then I had to think, well, you can't really judge what they did with the money, only because naturally you're going to take the money and do something with it. And most people would pay their bills off if they have bills. California is a very expensive state to live in. So naturally, why wouldn't you take the money given to you? And then a lot of people may have thought that he was involved on the scheme because of that issue with the victims fund money that he received once she came out and reappeared. But then you hear he wasn't allegedly involved in the scheme. He was looked at one point, passed a polygraph. An ex-boyfriend helped her. She went and stayed with him, but allegedly nothing happened between them. She wasn't interested in him, which I found that information baffling. He's attracted to a woman and she's sleeping in his house, but she won't have sexual relations with him, won't let him touch her. All that was bizarre to me. Inflicting wounds, burning herself. Who the hell does this to themselves to prove they were kidnapped? Then you lied on a certain group of people, which are Hispanic women. So see, it's one lie, devious deed after the other. Probably always been a liar since she was a child or in her youth. People have just pushed it under the rug. She meets and greets this guy, dates him, marries him, Keith. He probably saw the signs that she was a liar, kept up drama, because people like this are always in stuff. They've got a lot of stuff going on. And people ride that donkey ass ride with them, knowing, hey, I need to run like hell from this person. The fact she has children is even worse. Now you're dealing with a sinister sociopath that's the mother of children. You're lying on Hispanic people, saying they kidnapped you. You're burning yourself. You involved this other guy who obviously liked you, but you didn't really want anything to do with him. You just wanted to use him. We also hear, I believe, from that same guy that she was known to be a liar. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a pattern. There's been a pattern. And people rode the ride with her. So now you got to ask yourself about brothers, sisters, family members, parents. What do they have to say about Sherry and who she is and what she's about? Because I got a feeling somebody else could come out with a similar story. Oh, yeah, she's always lied. She's always been a storyteller. Just a cute way of saying liar. Writing children's books. Sherry Papini, you're not in any shape to write children's books, period. And why would you even tell your children that? Now you got to ask, does she have custody of the children? Split custody, visitation. Reporter asks him, has he talked to her? Does he talk to her? He says no. Well, then how would they be dealing with the children if they're not talking? So does he have full, complete custody and she has no visitation rights? I can see a judge not giving her any visitation rights because of the crime she committed, because it's fraud. And that's not somebody that needs to be in the company of children, rearing children or having possessions of children. So if he's not speaking to her, how would they be cohabitating as far as visitation? Because in order for her to have visitation, Keith, you would have to be speaking to her. So do you have full custody, number one? Or does she have custody of the children? I'm confused. I didn't hear that in this little 6-minute clip. She has a boyfriend. Who is that and why is this fool dating her? Sir, are you not aware of what she's done? Carrying a lie for many years? So what are you getting out of dating Sherry Papini? Please explain to me. Because we're not talking about something petty. We're talking about a woman exacting a faux kidnapping crime, getting money from the state. Naturally, they'd have to pay that money back. She's a problem person. So what do you want with her? But you see this all the time with women chasing problem men who stay in trouble with the law, break the law, and just stay into more foolishness after foolishness. So why would it be different with a woman? A guy chasing around a woman. She's no different. Dealing with Sherry Papini is no different than a man chasing around a fucking crackhead. That's my personal opinion. You see men who do this all the time. They like those street women, as they call them, street walkers, ladies of the night, meth heads. Sherry Papini is no different to me. She's a problem. She's a walking problem. And there are people who are like this. They're attracted to this type of drama. And you have to tell yourself, if you see the signs, that you are attracted to people who cannot stay their ass still and be still and do right and try to live a fruitful life. You have to tell yourself, what is wrong with me? Why am I attracting these type of people? Why am I dealing with these type of people? Okay, they've shown me they're not who I thought they were. I need to run like hell. So this guy who's dating her, if he's still dating her, you have full knowledge knowing the crime she has committed. She's done time in penitentiary. What do you want with her? And yes, we know that people need love. But I would say to myself, I think I would pass with Sherry Papini. And the fact that she wants to tell her children she's writing books, it's probably another lie. She's in no shape mentally to write a book about anything pertaining to children because, one, she doesn't need to have access to children, and she don't need to be sending any type of information into the universe about children. What type of book could she possibly write? I mean, I'm being serious. What could she possibly say to the universe? And what could she say to children? Hey, I want to show you about why you shouldn't be a liar. Is that the message in the books? How not to be a little liar? Help me understand, Miss Papini. Help me understand your message that you would put in children's books. I'm confused. This lady's going to have a hard road because I don't think she has any remorse. And the fact that she's never apologized to her husband, her ex-husband, and her children tells you who she is. She's a sociopath. She doesn't care anything about the lies she pulled, using the state's resources to find her, to go look for imaginary people that did not exist, that do not exist. She's diabolical. And the fact is that she was married to someone and the mother of children. She carried children in her womb, and this is what she would do in her spare time. She's a very lonely individual. And another thing I found baffling is when he said he felt like she exacted this hoax so he could come find her in her imaginary mind. She was hoping he would rescue her. How were you going to rescue her and you didn't even know where she was, sir? I found that comment odd. So what did she say in her commentary to you that would make you think she wanted you to rescue her? Sherry has problems. And I don't think it has anything to do about being rescued. I think she ran away from her life because when people do these type of crimes, they're running away from something. So I don't know what was going on in your marriage. She accused you of abusing her. You said you never abused her, ever. Well, something was wrong in your relationship with Sherry. There's something she was longing for, seeking. And truthfully, she'll still be seeking the same damn thing, whatever it is. This is why I'm saying this boyfriend needs to run like hell. Because today, it's lying about being kidnapped. Tomorrow, she could be involved in a homicide. I don't trust a person like her. Period. Wife, mother, friend, neighbor, co-worker, boss, she is sinister. Because that's the old saying. You lie about one thing, you lie about another. And she didn't lie about a little thing. Okay? She lied about something really big, which costs money and resources. And these people could have been out here, law enforcement, looking for somebody that was actually missing instead of wasting their damn time fooling with this crazy ass nut. And she's obviously delusional in talking about writing children's books. To tell children what exactly? Nothing. Because she doesn't have any remorse. And I'm sure if you go back in the book of life, there will be signs to show you that Sherry was messed up a long time ago. Not 5 years, not 10, not even 20, childhood. So you have to ask yourself, who raised her? How was she treated? Was she abused mentally, physically, sexually? Because that lying comes from somewhere. And usually children who start off lying is because they're unhappy. So perhaps she had a very unhappy childhood. And this is where fiction comes into play. They start to make up stuff to fill a void in their life. As I had told you all once before of a classmate I had in high school, he had the propensity to lie all the time. He always wanted to make himself seem like he was wealthy. He lived in a fancy house. His parents were well off. Obviously, he was seeking something. And I won't doubt that now. He's what? A year younger than Queen? He probably still lying. Because those are habits that are hard to stop. It is hard to stop lying. Because it becomes a part of you. And at some point, as people would say, they start to believe the lies. And maybe they're right. Maybe there's some truth to that. That you lie so much, you believe the lies you're spinning to people. You start to believe that you're an astronaut. You can fly. I'm a unicorn. Look at me. It's pathetic. And the fact that he says he's not happy, Keith. Well, sir, you're going to have to try to find happiness. Because what you need to be grateful for is that this ruse didn't go on any longer. You now know the truth about your ex-wife. You're free from her. And you don't ever have to be bothered with her. Unless you're mandated by the courts, dealing with, child custody and things like that, visitation. But I would be thrilled to be away from her. Don't talk to her, nothing. Look at her, nothing. I'm also curious why you waited so long to come out and speak to the public. Was it a financial reason? Just curious, because naturally Hulu paid you something to be a part of the documentary. I'll try to watch it to see if she coincided with the documentary or not, or this is just his side of the story. See all who participated in the documentary. But it's a sad situation because children are involved. But I got a feeling that Keith knew something wasn't right with Sherry. Because as I said, you just don't wake up and start lying. Not this type of lie. She's been lying. It's just a matter of who called her bluff. Possibly no one. Maybe he did say something to her. Hey, I don't like what you said. I know you're not telling me the truth, blah, blah, blah. Just think about it. If you lie about being kidnapped, leave evidence behind like somebody picked you up and threw you into a car, leave your cell phone, headphones behind. You've been doing a lot of other devious shit. And you probably told all type of wild stories just to have something to say. Hey, what'd you do today, Sherry? Oh, yeah, I went to the market and I stopped at Ross and I went over here to Macy's, and she probably never even left the house. Prayers for the children. And prayers that Mr. Keith will find happiness again and move on. As far as what happens to Sherry Papini, I could care less. She's a bum to me. Because there's no reason for anybody to walk around and tell these type of lies and then show no remorse, never apologize, and then have the nerve to talk about writing children's books and have a new boyfriend. She's sinister. Next story is about a prison murder-suicide. This is a very diabolical story coming out of Georgia. Fox 5 Atlanta is the source. Thank you for your time.
State prison over the weekend.
Investigators say an inmate managed to get a gun inside Smith State Prison and then killed the kitchen staffer before turning the gun on himself. Tonight, investigators say they believe the inmate and victim had a relationship. Fox 5's Rob Urienzo has been digging into the details of this very alarming story. Rob?
Yeah, and the biggest concern tonight is people really aren't sure about how that inmate managed to get his hands on a gun behind bars at one of the state's maximum security prisons and then use it. The Department of Corrections still does not have an explanation for us tonight, but we have since learned that the kitchen employee killed early Sunday morning was just 24 years old.
Wow.
The Georgia Department of Corrections says inmate J. Drakus Hart shot the Aramark food service worker inside Smith State Prison in southeast Georgia early Sunday morning. She's been identified as 24-year-old Orion Grace. The prison says Hart then turned the gun on himself.
That, to me, is shocking to the conscious, and I hope that this is a wake-up call for the Georgia Department of Corrections.
Joshua Schiffer has practiced criminal law in Georgia for 2 decades. He says this incident demonstrates a complete failure by the Department of Corrections leaders.
This institution, Smith, is a notorious institution because it's a high-security institution dealing with some of Georgia's most
dangerous and threatening inmates. Back in October, investigators say an inmate there shanked 42-year-old guard Robert Clark to death from behind. Earlier last year, the GBI charged the prison's warden in a sprawling contraband conspiracy. Hart was serving time for voluntary manslaughter and aggravated battery from a 2015 case out of Carroll County. His earliest release date would have been 2043.
This wasn't a shank or a piece of wood or a razor blade. This was a firearm with ammunition.
Wow.
And everybody needs to realize how dangerous this situation was and how indefensible this death is.
The entire state correctional system has been under a years-long federal investigation into allegations of civil rights abuses. The state legislature just formed a committee to review it from top to bottom.
This example is an unfortunate reflection of what's happening in Georgia prisons as a whole.
Just a little while ago, a spokesperson for the prisons told us they believe Hart and Grace had a romantic relationship. They say he did leave behind a suicide note.
He left behind a suicide note. Earlier incident at the prison back in October of 2023. Warden brought up on charges of, I guess, some type of conspiracy with weapons. This is some bizarre information here. How did he get the gun? Who brought the gun into prison? Number one. Will this person end up being revealed and charges brought against this person? High security prison. So people are going to say, well, then how the hell did the gun get in there? Did he pay somebody to bring the gun in? Obviously, he's working with people in the prison because he's dating this girl and she's working in the canteen. That's obvious. It's very obvious. He's working with her, dating her, all that. So if he was dating her to kill himself, common sense should tell you he was in cahoots with somebody that brought the gun in. So this guy had some weight up in this prison. Some kind of weight he was carrying to be schmoozling with this one girl and then also having access to somebody bringing him a damn gun. So one's going to believe it's a staffer that brought the gun in. Say, whoa. And what would be interesting if she brought him the damn gun. So imagine she brought him a gun in that he ended up using to kill her and then kill himself. Because you got to ask, how did he get the gun in? How did he get access to get near her to shoot her? Where was she in the prison to be shot? Standing behind the line, serving the food, and he just walked through the line and pulled the gun out and shot her? Stay woke, because this is some baffling information. WSB TV2 is the source. Once again, Department of Corrections investigating deadly shooting inside metro area prison. It involved an employee and an inmate early Sunday morning. GDC said approximately 4:30 a.m. Sunday, inmate Jadricus Hart shot Aramark food service employee identified as Grace while working in the kitchen at the Smith State Prison. So this all happened inside of a damn kitchen. She was pronounced dead. So let's ask ourselves, did he do any type of work in the prison? Did he work in the kitchen or had access to the kitchen, which would have led him to be in there to then shoot this woman and then unalive himself? So he shoots this woman, turned the gun on himself. It says she was pronounced dead. Hart then turned the gun on himself. He was taken to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. Investigators determined that Hart and Grace were in a personal relationship. Suicide note was also discovered that appears to have been left by offender. Hart, officials wrote, this was an isolated incident and investigation remains open and active. We will not be able to comment further at this time as the investigation continues. The weapon is in GDC custody at the time. GDC is investigating what led up to this incident. Hart was serving 20 years for voluntary manslaughter out of Carroll County with the maximum release date of June 2043. So you're talking about 19 years or so. He had to go on his sentence. So who did he unalive in Carroll County? What was the situation pertaining to that homicide? Male, female? How did these two meet? Outside of this prison or when he became an inmate? I don't think he was in there that long. Probably about a year or so. So how did he meet her? Going through the cafeteria, working in the cafeteria, kitchen or whatever. Pass a note between each other. And then you got to ask yourself that. How are you really dating somebody locked up? Let's keep it real. Because many people try to talk to inmates, and it's a hard thing to do when all you got are just letters, phone calls, and visitation in a day room. So how did the gun get into prison? Number one. What was the exchange? Who's the exchange with? Is she the one that brought him the gun? If not, who was the person that brought the gun in? The fact that a staff member was unalived at the same prison less than a year ago, and another inmate tried to help the person, the staff member, guard who was unalive, stabbed. And they were threatening that other inmate, this incident that happened last October at the same prison. So this place has violent offenders there. And just think, you're going to work in a prison and now you're being shanked. Another inmate is trying to help you, but they can't even ward off the killer. Now, fast forward. Here comes this guy shooting a staff member in the kitchen and then kills himself. This is some bullshit. Now, we have heard of all types of horrible crimes that take place in prisons. People bringing in drugs, paraphernalia, contraband, crimes against inmates, hurting each other, shanking each other, killing each other, beating each other up, beating up guards. We're hearing of rape, sexual assaults, inmate relationships with staff members and guards, homosexuality in the prisons, guards, even men guards making out with men guards making out with women, inmates, high-ranking officials inside the prison messing around with the inmates. And now you've heard the worst. An inmate with access to a gun shooting a kitchen staff worker employed through another company, Aramark. You can't make this up. Both individuals are African American, if you were curious. How are you going to explain this to somebody? How are you going to explain this to her family, how she's dead on her job in a prison? Because I'm quite baffled at the information my damn self. How did this gun get in this prison? How long were these two dating? What did the suicide note say? What would lead this man to kill this woman? Did he hear that she was messing around with another inmate, writing another inmate? Hell, was she putting too many mashed potatoes on somebody's fucking plate? What are we talking about here? Because we understand how petty things can get when you're locked up. Things that you wouldn't think to argue about is what you would argue about in prison. Because it's a different ball game in there. It's a different code of ethics and survival. So did he get wind that she was giving somebody else extra spaghetti, extra pineapples for dessert? Oh, why are you giving him more pineapples? Oh, he said he was hungry. So what? He killed her? Help me understand. What did the note say? I'm very curious. 3-part live, everybody. Keith Papini speaks about his relationship with Sherry Papini and the hoax of her fake kidnapping. Bishop Lamor Whitehead has been sentenced to 9 years for fraud. Flashy pastor out of New York City. And this story here out of Georgia, where a young man got access to a gun inside of a prison, and he shot this young lady, Miss Grace, where she died, I'm assuming, on the scene, and he later died at a hospital. Wow, wow, wow. Did she have kids? I'm wondering. How long has she been dating this young man? Did they meet at the prison, or did they meet before he got in the prison and she was able to get a job there? I don't know all the details, but nonetheless, it's very baffling because you can't make this nonsense up. This is worse of the worst here. This is worse of the worst. I'll give you the names again before I check out of here. Bringing you back-to-back lives today. Trying to catch up because I am thoroughly behind all my content. Please check out my shorts. I've done a lot of shorts last night and into the wee hours. So if I don't do a live, there is also a short on the content in the YouTube queue. His name is Jadricus Hart, and he shot Miss Grace, I think her name is Aria Grace, of Aramark. She was an Aramark food service employee. Many of you probably heard of this company. They do catering for schools and prisons. She was pronounced dead. Hart then turned the gun on himself. He was taken to a local hospital where he was pronounced deceased. Suicide note was also discovered that appears, oh, Lordy, to have been left behind by offender Hart. Jadricus Hart. What was on his mind? What was going on in his head? He gave up on life, obviously. Well, I've got 20 years to do here, 19 years. I don't think I can make it. Something's going on with me and this chick. I'll just kill her, kill myself, and that's the end of it. Did he have children? Did Mr. Hart have children? Did he have family support? Did he have people visiting? Was he able to call anybody? Where is his family? What will they have to say about this murder-suicide? What in God's name is going on in this world? It's one thing to be murdered in the street, murdered in your home, murdered by a stranger, murdered by somebody that you were cool with, uncool with, broken relationship, marriage. But I ain't never heard of no shit like this before in my life. Being shot on your job because you allegedly had a relationship with an inmate and he has access to you to unalive you in a damn prison kitchen. This is wicked. Prayers to Miss Grace's family. Prayers that somebody goes into this prison and cleans house from top to bottom. Because now you're talking about 2 heinous murders in less than a year of a staff member at the prison who was stabbed, I believe, by an inmate, and now the murder of a kitchen worker who had a relationship with Mr. Hart. This is bad. This is really, really bad. And they've already had a dirty warden at the same prison who was involved in God knows what. Something about weapons and something. Conspiracy. I don't really know the details, but it ain't good. So you had a dirty a dirty warden, an unaliving of a staff member last year. And now this year you have a killing of an inmate against another staff member that worked in the kitchen. There's something very off here. And obviously somebody's not doing their homework. Somebody's not checking people thoroughly. Somebody's not waving the baton on the people when they come into work to make sure they don't have any contraband, anything illegal. This ain't good. This ain't good at all. But that's my content for this morning. I'll be back later with another live, which will be live number 3. I will try to get this Victoria Herman content out to you, plus the other content that will be pertaining to Katie Proudfoot and a unlucky leprechaun that's on the wire. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BeGanji129 Cash App, stickers and chats always welcome during the live. Thank you, Luminous and Pale Rider, for joining me, and those who are listening in the background. Once again, prayers for Miss Grace to her family. And I do hope that she did not have any children, because this will be devastating to have to notify a child or children to tell them that their mother is no longer alive. And as I said, I do not know if Mr. Hart had any children. And that will also be devastating to them, because you can't judge children according to the sins of their father or the mother. But this is horrific. And this right here is just unbelievable. You hear of a lot of whack, crazy stories, but this one you have never heard Makeshift weapons, yes, but not a damn gun in a prison. That's my content, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful, prosperous day. Once again, the documentary pertaining to Sherry Papini is airing on Hulu today. Check your local listings and times, and comment under this video and my Papini short to give me your commentary pertaining to what you think of that Hulu docuseries. You've been listening to the Vault XL.